Hi, everyone. Welcome to the fourth day of the Poolside opening week. So, today we are starting our panels with a live episode from Denites TV. I don't know if you ever watched an episode on YouTube, but Miguel is the person leading this project about Web3, and I'm very happy to have this episode being recorded live during the inauguration of Poolside. So today we are discussing Web3 in media. With Miguel, obviously, as a moderator, and then as guests, we have Filipe Pereira from Crowdclass, and João Correia Pereira from Judas, an advertisement agency, right? And yeah, I hope you enjoy it. It's going to be a fun discussion.
Thank you, Katarina, for the invitation to be here. I would like first to present a little bit of what was Denites TV and why are we here. So my full-time job actually is as a project manager for the Next Big Idea, which is a Portuguese media brand that covers topics around startups and innovation. And some months ago, I met someone from Denites, which is a Portuguese Web3 community that focus especially in organizing Web3 events where different startups have the chance to meet and to talk about what they are working on. And they challenged me to produce a podcast with their branding where instead of just making events, they could have some sort of editorial product where they could discuss topics around Web3. And so for the past 3 months, I've done some episodes around Web3 where I tried to see kind of what will be the impact of industry in things like marketing, gaming, and kind of how companies can be structured right now and in the future. And thankfully, here at Poolside is a great opportunity to record the last episode of this season, and it has been a great experience. And so with me, I have Filipe from Crowdclass and João from Judas, as Katarina presented, and I also wanted them to present what they are working on and kind of explaining why they are in a panel about Web3. So Filipe, you can go first and present Crowdclass.
Thank you, Miguel, and it's really cool to be here. We Crowdclass, we are one of the companies that are one of the founding teams that are part of the Poolside Hub too, and being here on this black box full of colors, it's really cool. I think this is a really awesome venue, and it's also really cool to be here on the podcast. And yeah, talking a little bit about us, Crowdclass. At Crowdclass, we essentially build tools for the brands and communities to engage with their audience, with their public, using digital collectibles and using NFTs as tools of engagement. And we are particularly focused on creating experiences that are available for mainstream audiences, for mainstream consumers, and not only Web3.
And you, Filipe, how did Judas get in contact with Web3?
Yeah, that's a long story, but I'll try to keep it short. We only have, 45 minutes? No, just kidding. First of all, thanks Poolside for the invitation and for being here today. It's an honor. Judas is a creative agency based in Lisbon. It has about 3 years. And just a disclaimer, it's called Judas because the 3 founding partners left the same agency at the same time. So we're going to be called traitors anyway. So we just called ourselves Judas. So just putting that aside. and then we started the agency 3 years ago. And our main goal is to help brands create communities, interact with them in different ways, using whatever tools they have at their disposal. It can be advertising, branding, brand activation, whatever. And 2 years ago, we started getting into Web3. Try to do experiments here and there on how brands could use this technology to interact in a new way with their consumers. So that's how we started testing and trying. I think as everyone in Web3, trying and testing and doing whatever experiments they have to, so we can move forward in this space. So that's how we get into, and we have a couple of projects by at this point, and some of them more successful than the others, but that's how life is. Yeah.
You and Filipe are together here at this panel because you work together on a project for that's called TVI in English, TVI in Portuguese, TVI, which is one of the leading media brands here in Portugal, and they decided to try to venture into Web3 with an initiative for their 30th birthday.
Exactly.
And I know that Judas was kind of the leading agency in trying to see how could they do this. Could you explain what was kind of the idea for that project? What was kind of the benchmark in that you guys kind of did to work with such a traditional brand in the TV space, especially, and try to see what was the smoothest way to introduce them to Web3?
Yeah, for them was also an experiment. Okay, they invited us to think on how they could celebrate their 30th birthday, getting into the Web3 space. They had no idea on how to. They just wanted to explore the potential that the technology has to change, and how can it change even their business model. Because if you think of how you can put a value into a digital asset, imagine the amount of digital assets that a TV network has spread throughout the internet, and now they can monetize that. That could be completely life-changing for a TV station, but that would be probably a few years from now. But at this point, I just wanted to get into it and experiment. So the challenge is to think on how could we use this opportunity to explore this space. And early on, actually, we've been talking with Filipe before this challenge. And it was funny because we had a meeting like a few weeks before I even started talking with TVI, and we were discussing the importance of, especially with digital collectibles and NFTs, on to approach it differently, and how they could be used as a tool to create communities around brands, and how they were getting very technical to people, and how should we change a bit the way we put forth this idea to people. And then when TV started talking with us, we just started first of all thinking conceptually the project, what should it be about, how should we celebrate what was behind, but with a forward thinking. And that's how we started. Very organic, very brainstormy. And then Filipe got very early in the process also. We had a couple of ideas on how to explore. Actually, it was one of the most amazing things about this project was the amount of people that was connected. Even one of them is Vasco, which is over there also, was one of the guys that jumped on board with us. And each one of them thinking on their specialty. We were thinking mainly on branding, and like strategic and conceptual, how this new brand that we created called TV 3.0 should be presented to people. On the branding side, Vasco was most thinking about the metaverse part of the project, drawing and making all this space, this amazing space. And Filipe very much into the NFT and the collectibles, and how they should be presented to everyone. How could we even how much should they cost and everything else. So it was incredible the amount of people that were collaborating in this project. That for me, that's one of the best things that for this project that was amazing.
Filipe, as João mentioned, the whole project was a metaverse included with an NFT collection, with, of course, a very rich IP that TV has as a TV station. What was the main challenge in trying in all these dimensions to include an easy way that people could approach a collectible and trying to make it easy for people to access it? And was there any benchmark of even a media station abroad that had already done this, or was this the first time that you saw, at least in your experience, that a TV station was trying to create a way to have an experience with its IP and for its birthday?
Yeah. So on our side, I think, and especially again, like João said, we were very focused on the collectible side, on the NFT side. First, there was the identification of the collectibles, which was done also through some interactions that were happening on social media to identify which collectibles were going to be put on display. But then the next thing, and I think the biggest challenge was, since the start, this was a project for the audience of TV and not necessarily a Web3 audience, right? So for that, we had to make an experience that was simple, relatable, and connected with that particular audience, and not with NFT degens or Web3 speculators or whatever. No, this was something from TV to their audience, and for people who care about those collectibles. And additionally to those collectibles, most of all, had some kind of utility that includes access to exclusive parties that will happen, visits to the TV station, participation on the webinar. Some of these utilities have already been done. So again, the biggest challenge was, how can we make an experience that is meaningful for TV fans first and foremost, right? And that is easy for TV fans and foremost. So when you think about that, the first thing is, do TV fans know what a wallet is? Do they know what ETH is? Do they know what gas fees are?
No.
Do they know what seed phrases are?
Probably not.
Do they know what is a nonce or a blockchain transaction or whatever? Most of them don't. Some of them do. So yeah, what we built was an experience. First, very white labeled, and then an experience where it is very, very easy to buy NFTs using fiat, where you can sign in with your email address, where you don't need a wallet at first to claim your NFT and have access to your utilities, and you can share it with your friends. And of course, if you have a wallet, it's almost like advanced mode. You can still associate it. You can still have it on your own wallet together with all your other NFTs and collectibles that you have. But first and foremost, it's about the fan of TV. So that, I think that was the biggest challenge, was making sure that this experience was really smooth, was really easy. If people got excited on the phone, they could buy it right away. And again, whenever they were going to buy, okay, now you have to connect a MetaMask. What is a MetaMask? Oh, I tell you what a MetaMask. Have you heard of the blockchain? Have you heard of crypto? Have you heard of... So delaying all that experience previously, and then when they are onboarded, when they have their own collectible, then it's much easier to also explain, or when they have one or two or three, then it's much easier to explain what's the importance of self-custody, what is the importance of them owning their own assets, also on their own end. So that was the challenge, and yeah, it was pretty fun. Like João said, we jumped in the project very early. I remember him calling me, Filipe, I have this challenge. How can I make it really, really simple? I mean, OpenSea, other paying ETH. We want to avoid all of that. And we said, well, let's do it. I'll help you with that.
Because yeah, so just to jump in, because even the easiest platforms at this point, there's a lot of blocks for a non-Web3 user. And if you think a brand like TVE, it was impossible to have this kind of blocks along the way if you wanted to make it a successful project. One of the things that it's important to mention at this point is the first part of the project was really a branding project. So even what the kind of promotion that we made from the project till this point was just mainly just TV is jumping into the future, and So it was mainly a branding part of the project. Now we're starting the second phase, which is the selling of the collectibles and the experiences. So we're going to be able to test after in a few months if it was really successful, because at this point it was, because in terms of branding awareness and brand values, it totally achieved the goal that it had. It was to make TVE look a forward-thinking TV network, and that was achieved.
And even because it's not necessarily, as Filipe said, it's not a Web3 native audience. You're not expecting the collection to immediately sold out. It's something that you'll need to communicate along a certain time. Yep. And people, as long as they will get in touch with the collectibles, they will buy them. And I've seen some people on social media already, like collecting the utilities. And
exactly, that's what at this point what we're starting to understand is people value. Mostly, they value, at least in this project, more than the video or the graphic moment. They value the experience or the utility, and that's key to the success. What kind of experience are you selling? And then, of course, when they leave the experience, they have a completely different look of the brand. So it's very. We were discussing this priorly. I think this going to be obviously one of the main usages of this technology would be to connect to fans in a different way and make them feel part of the brand itself, and they do feel that they have own part of the brand, and that's a completely shift in the way people relate to brands. So that's one of the exciting things around this technology, and we think it's worth exploring.
They allow to create a type of digital engagement, and they are very interesting tools that can be integrated on bigger experiences themselves. I think that's also really important, right? At some point, the NFT does not live for itself, but if it's built within a context of a bigger experience, a bigger story between the brand and the audience or the communities and their members, it is a really powerful tool to boost that community sense and that interaction.
Yeah, I was thinking about a completely different project, and the way people bond and connect with these communication projects and brands. And I was thinking about the communications director of the Obama campaign, the first one. When he was in a conference I saw a couple of years ago, and he was telling that the most important thing for him was to get people to donate $1, because that $1 donation would engage people with the brand and with the campaign. Not want to be like big donations. Now $1, that would be enough for people to bond. And one of the things that we feel in this project, that this bond that you're connecting when people get their NFT, they create a bond with the brand, and that's a very strong bond that it's very difficult to emulate in with different technologies or just like follow on social media. It's much different than to have something that belongs to the brand and you co-own. So that's one of the great things that this technology enables, and that we would like to explore. Yeah.
Moving the conversation to a broader sense, we were discussing previously that I gave you a statement that I don't know if you fully agree, but for me, the NFTs and metaverse were for 2022 what the AI is kind of being right now for 2023, and that had a lot of cool things, which is like there were a lot of brands that suddenly decided, like TV, that it was time to venture into Web3 and try to do their own collections or their own experiences in the space. And I imagine that you guys in your day-to-day job, you mostly are not necessarily dealing with a media brand, you are leading with consuming brands or brands that normally it's kind of more common, the experiences are being tested with NFTs. What is kind of, in some of the brands, not necessarily that you worked with, but in a general sense, when trying to create an experience in this space, or what was a common mistake that they did when trying to kind of replicate what they already did in a Web2 sense to a Web3 sense? And Filipe, you can start out.
So I think, again, coming to mistakes, I think definitely the way that they communicate is definitely something that many brands are still learning how they build the experience, how they communicate the campaigns, how they communicate the collectibles, and how they communicate how that fits into an entire experience. I think most brands are still a long way on communicating that directly well, and then understanding on who they want to communicate with, and that actually goes very in line with the hype that happened last year. Is that many brands wanted to jump on board, but wanted to jump on board on what? Wanted to jump on board for whom? And the reality is that many brands were just entering again into the Web3 or NFT space without either having a very clear knowledge of it or not really knowing who were they targeting. And many of the times they were just trying to catch the hype, and they were not even speaking with their own audiences. And I think that's definitely one of the biggest mistakes that brands still do, is not identifying very well who are they building an experience to. And to be fair, the fact that we are now on the AI hype train, I think it's very good for things like NFTs, digital collectibles, experiential loyalty, because the ones that jump on board are very thoughtful on it. They want to make it because it's not part of the hype anymore. They want to make it because they want to create authenticity, they want to increase connection, they want to create a community sense within their community, or they want to celebrate special moments like TV wanted to do. They don't do 30 years every year, right? So that's a special moment. That's where things like collectibles, experiential loyalty makes a lot of sense. And to be fair, I think those two things are the biggest mistakes that I've seen brands doing. The fact that we are now on another hype train, the ones that are still on board are very thoughtful about it. And the project that we've been speaking about it are not doing it because of the hype. They are doing it because of they want to give something to their communities.
And you, João, your experience as a creative agency, that I can imagine that for a long time, there were even brands that you work that are used to a certain way of thinking in their communication or in their marketing. What was the main challenge when they come to you and say, I really want to have a Web3 experience? Is there any sort of steps in terms of trying to shift the mindset to them that you had to take? What were kind of the challenges or kind of your mindset when you try to sell to them an experience that they should target?
Yeah, I think that one of the easiest way to see if they want to get really into Web3 or no, it's the budget part. Because if you want just to build a house on spatial, you can do it for free, and that you don't need an agency for. And when you present a budget to really think on how you should be there, what the strategy is, what kind of audiences are you targeting, what are the steps that you should follow, and when they see the budget, they realize if, okay, this is something serious. And then at this point, some of them say, no, I'm not, it's not for me. Others have said, fortunately, okay, let's do it. But that, I think that's, I've seen a couple of projects this year because we feel like a lost opportunity. Big brands with big media reach that just go into the metaverse or whatever.
Like Bosch?
No, I don't want to. Yeah, but there's a couple of them, and even in Portugal. I was even in Portugal. And there are some brands that have budget and have they could have done it differently, and unfortunately they didn't have the right partners or whatever, and they did it like it was. For me, it feels like a lost opportunity. And I think AI, we're going to look back like a year from now, and it will be like the same. Some brands will make it. They use the technology in a clever way, in a creative way, in a way people engage with it, and others will have just like something that worth nothing. And okay.
Thankfully, 2022, it wasn't all bad things. Actually, the hype train kind of brought cool things and cool brands that actually made a nice jump into Web3. Web2 brands made a nice jump to Web3. if you had to choose or provide an example of something that you really liked seeing, what would you choose? Filipe, you can start.
Uh, one project that I still give as a reference, and I think it's a really good project on how to communicate properly with their audience, is the Trump collectible cards. And it's true because you probably go there and you get feel cringed. You don't like it, but then you see that communication is completely done for Trump supporters. The experience to buy is completely seamless, easy. It hides all the Web3 complexities. The way that they communicate is very, very specific. But again, it's an example on what I keep telling it, which is build that for your audience, make an experience of buying, of utility, of visuals, of narrative, of storytelling for your audience first, and communicate properly, and you will have a lot of success. It's about being emotional. It's about having a good user experience at the same time, and I think that's a really good example of that. Whether or not you like the character, I have my own personal opinions. This is live on YouTube. I will not say anything about it. But I think it's an actual pretty good example of a successful project. Built a narrative for their audience, build a technology for their audience to participate, and sold out when everyone that was looking at it a few days before was saying, this is ridiculous. But everyone was saying it was ridiculous. Guess what? Was not anyone from Trump's audience.
Yeah, that's true. And João, what's your example?
Yeah, I think the Trump one was a good one. We've discussed it and we talked about it a couple of times because it's that's what Filipe's saying. It's really into the audience, so it's built with them in mind and not with me or whatever. Starbucks Odyssey also is a good example, and maybe a bit more elegant, I would say. But it's all very very professional, very well done, and it's amazing. Once again, the potential that
Can
it
you
has.
give a brief explanation of what they did?
The Starbucks Odyssey, it's an experiment of Starbucks to upgrade their reward program, and it's a Web3 version of their loyalty program. And people collect stamps or collectibles, and then they can have access to a unique coffee experience, or they can visit farms where the coffee is planted. So there's a lot of experience, as we were mentioning, like in Trump's example. It's much more built into it's like a gateway to earn some experiences and to connect with the brand further, than to have some digital asset that I can brag about, whatever. I can do both, but this idea of earning experiences. And so Starbucks Odyssey is exactly that. Is the people collect tokens, and then they can change it for experiences, for hidden treasures in the Starbucks brand. And that's even the communication. It's very interesting. I think it will be as a mass to reach a mass scale. It will take its time. But again, it's a very good example. In a different area, .swoosh is also a very well-known project, but I think it's more on a creator side. I think it's a different vision of what NFTs will mean in the future. Probably they're both going to live together. I'm more into the Starbucks Odyssey 1, which is get the community to live experiences and to connect with the brand more than on the creator side. Although I think there's value in the creator economy to explore the NFTs.
And yeah, just to add, Miguel, just to add something on the Starbucks Odyssey, which is definitely also a great example on bringing NFTs as a brand experience. One thing that Starbucks is also doing really well, and of course they are doing this because they already have a massive infrastructure, and they, even before entering into Web3, they are probably one of the most well-designed loyalty programs on Earth. And a loyalty program is something that's designed to drive revenue back, independently of anything. And the reality is that for you to collect these stamps that you gain on Starbucks Odyssey, through the journeys that you have to do to get them, you have to order coffee, or you have to do some kind of activity that will generate revenue for the company. And in the end, you get your collectible for free because you went through the steps. That's how you feel about a consumer. But for the brand, you already made several steps until then that generated direct revenue, direct value to them, right? And that's also one thing that I think is really smart on the Starbucks Odyssey program. And I think it's this loyalty also mechanism that will also put NFTs or Web3 more on the day-to-day of smart brands that don't go through the hype. And that's exactly what Starbucks is not doing. They're not driving the hype. They are using collectibles to drive revenue and loyalty and engagement within their ecosystem. And that's really smart.
It's cool that you said that, because to end the panel, and here we discussed a lot of Web3 experiences with NFTs, but not necessarily with NFTs. And to end this, I wanted to ask you, and you guys are working in experience and in NFT implementation, what is kind of an application for NFTs that brands will be doing in like 5 years, 2 years, that they are not doing now, and that will become even more seamlessly to a brand collection or to a brand experience that right now it seems a little bit hard to implement. João, you can...
I start the difficult one.
Yeah.
The easy one to go.
It's a thought for the future.
You will give me ideas then.
It can be something that's already being done right now, but it will be even better in the future.
No, I think that, as I was mentioning earlier with the Starbucks example, is that I see more and more. There's a huge potential on rewards programs. That it's untapped, completely untapped by brands. They just build those programs and then they leave it there. And I really think that NFTs or this technology can give a second life to these programs and give some meaning to it, and make people feel part of the brand that they don't at this point. Just have this card that they live somewhere else. And so for me, as an agent, as a creative agency, I would be very interested in starting to create these loyalty programs or NFT loyalty, whatever program. That would be something that I see going forward. There's a huge potential in it. Of course, if we talk in a different area of bringing back to the TV project, also the metaverse has also a lot of potential to explore the experiences, and that would be I'm sure that will be in the next year. Although we were discussing AI will be the hype. I'm sure, at least in Portugal, I'm sure that there will be a lot of brands going into the metaverse with the clever creative projects. So that would be something really interesting also to explore. But this, yes, the NFTs connected to these loyalty programs, that would be something fun to do.
Your turn, Filipe.
No, I definitely, and that's one of the areas that we also actively work is definitely on how can we use these tokens as means of loyalty. I think there's a lot of potential and tap also on let's call it although there's obviously some more high value collectibles that are financialized, the reality is that there's a bit of a bad view on NFTs because of the high level of speculation that we have during the hype years, right? But I think there's a lot of potential on the non-financialization of NFTs and the use of NFTs as commemorative assets that brands can use to mark moments, to prove moments. You know, it's because in the end they are authenticated tokens on chain that you can prove in a decentralized manner. That's what they are. And first, there's this power of as people start becoming more and more digital, they also value that, and people value badges that they gain because they run I don't know how many miles on Strava, or because they went to this and because they went to there. So I think there's a lot of potential for brands to create commemorative NFTs as ways to commemorate moments as almost points of reward, but are rewards that people actually own, that if you don't lose your account, or if because they just close the system, you don't have access to those badges anymore. And then used as tools that can be further down the line also used on loyalty programs, on reactivation moments, on re-engagement moments. I think there's a lot of untapped potential on that. Which, if you think about it, it's a very simple application, sometimes even simpler than selling NFTs. But because we started the other way around, now conveying this value, it's a little bit more challenging now.
Yeah, and a final idea that I had while listening to you, is there any time, and kind of closing the conversation on the media sense, where NFTs, in terms of, instead of being a collectible or to commemorate a certain event, is there any point in time where they are actually the gateway to certain types of content? For example, TVI in this initiative, the NFTs or the collectibles were already moments that were in soap operas or in TV shows or in moments from the news that were throughout the 30 years of the channel. But is there any time where if either you are a TV channel or a news publisher or whatever, or a Netflix, that the NFT in itself, you need to possess it to access the content?
Yeah, I think media companies will have specific challenge when we talk about NFTs, and that would be one of the ways to connect content with NFTs and only have access to content, and that would be pretty much doable even on live television. So that would be something. So that's one of the things that excite TV also, is to know that they are a media platform, and that the potential that they have, it's huge. So yeah, for sure, and that would be one of the ways.
Guys, thank you.
No, just to concur, and again, imagine that you come to an event in real life, that you get that commemorative NFT. That commemorative NFT is a token of access to maybe a webinar that will happen only for that person to go. Or there's metaverse experience, or this game where there's a locked area just for the people that went there, right? That first creates exclusivity for the people that were there, and next time it drives more people to come because there's these tokens that can work as memorabilia, but of course, because they are digital primitives, they can also work as interoperable token-gated mechanisms.
Guys, thank you very much.
Thank you, Miguel.
Thank you. With me.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for being here as well, and once again, thanks Poolside for the invitation and for the opportunity of being here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.